Good afternoon and welcome to the March 20th meeting of the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust. Before I call the meeting to order, I'd just like to make a couple of procedural comments. If any citizen or any person who is wishing to address the trust, if you would go outside and fill out a card and turn it into us here, then when that item comes up for discussion, I will call on you to give you an opportunity to speak. If you want to just speak about economic development in general and not to a particular item, there will also be a time for you to speak at the end of the agenda where you can make your comments known. The other thing, if you have a cell phone, if you would turn that off, that would also be helpful. And with that, I'll call the meeting to order. And the first item on our agenda is to approve the minutes of the February 20th, 2018 Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust meeting. A motion is second. Are there any comments or questions? Seeing none, please cast your votes. And it is approved. Next up is the claims for the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust. A motion is second. Before we vote, I've asked for just a brief review of some of the items that are gold payments that are on the claim. So, Kathy, if you'd share just your comments on that, I'd appreciate it.
Well, the first one is the payment of $660,000 to Paycom. This is for the second project that we approved with Paycom. It is year 3 of that project. At the end of the third year, they've ended with 660 jobs. They had a goal of 667 jobs, so we have about $26,000 remaining to allocate for this project, because of the not-to-exceed amount that we designate for each of these. The next one is the one right below that, the $120,750 to Tapstone. Again, this is for Tapstone's project that we approved several years ago. It's year 4 of that project. Their goal was 150 jobs, and at the end of year 4, they were at 69 jobs. And finally, Grocery Supply Acquisition Corp. For $24,200. This is the 6th year of that project. They ended the year with 106 jobs, and their goal was for 150. So they have about 24,000 remaining to allocate on that project as well. So that's all I have.
Thank you for that report, Kathy. Any comments or questions? We do have a motion and a second to ratify.
So moved.
We already have it. Please cast your votes. And the claims are ratified. Next up, we have some items for individual consideration. And I do not see Mr. Winger here, but I see his capable assistant.
Good afternoon. Debbie Miller with the Public Works Department. I'm here to present the amendment number 4, change order number 5 for Project 180, Package 6B. We have the amendment, which the largest items were traffic control and milestone incentives. The traffic control was a large part of it to keep two-way traffic on Gaylord and access for the stakeholders in the area. The traffic control had to be reconfigured several different times, and that was an additional cost to the project. And then the contractor did meet 3 milestones, and so that's included in the amendment. On the change order, the bulk of that change order is to pay for accelerated practices to complete the southbound lane to get traffic onto that side. It is good to note that since we paid for acceleration, the contractor is not eligible for milestones on that southbound lane. The project is on schedule to be completed the first week of April, and I can answer any questions.
Thank you, Debbie. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Debbie, I know we have an allowance of 10% on change orders.
Right.
But from its inception, when it was originally bid and rewarded, it's over $1 million in excess from that original. And I respect that we've had all these things, but what has really contributed to that total overage?
The majority of that is the streetscape portion on the east side of Gaylord that was supposed to be bid in the hub project on that plaza. It was omitted, and so we included it into this by amendment. We do have a policy or it is our goal to keep our projects at a 7% overage between change orders and amendments. So, but that's the majority of why it's like $460,000.
Okay, thank you.
Any further comments? If not, can I get a motion to approve the amendments and the change orders?
Second.
A motion is second. Any more comments or questions? Please cast your votes.
I do have additional question,
Go
I'm
right
sorry.
ahead, sir.
Do you anticipate additional change orders and amendments going forward?
I do think we probably will see the contract adjusted slightly, but I think the bulk of it's behind us, Mr. Roth. I think we're close enough to the end that, we'll be able to stay in probably that 7-8% range.
Excuse me, when you say the 7-8%, you mean for each individual change order? Because as was pointed out, on the whole project, we're exceeding that.
For the collective change order, we stand at 6.6% right now on collective change order.
As opposed to amendments?
Yes, sir. Amendments are not included in that total.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
A quick question. I noticed there were some incentives for early completion. When we bid that out, does that go in the amount for the project, or is that part of the reason why we ran over, because of the incentives for early completion?
They're included. We amend the contract to include those if the contractor happens to hit those.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any more comments or questions?
Yeah, thank you. That's an excellent question, so I just want to understand that better. So accelerated payments earned by a contractor are not part of the original encumbrance, but are paid through amendments subsequent to the work being performed?
Yes. Because they may or they may not hit those. And so when we award the contract, we award it for the total of their bid, which does not include the incentives.
Right. No, it makes sense. I'm just curious to know that contractor can expect payment through performance when the city doesn't have an encumbrance yet in place.
Well, we have the money in contingency. So we do have a contingency set aside that we can take that money from and then encumber it into the contract.
All right, that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Any more comments or questions? Seeing none, please cast your votes. And it is so done. Next item.
The next item on the agenda is a resolution approving an allocation of funding for the Northeast Renaissance Project Increment District Number 9 in the amount of $1,375,000. The allocation is to, and the resolution authorized city staff to make an internal loan in the amount of, in the total amount. $575,000 of that will be in the form of a forgivable loan, and $800,000 will be in the form of an incentive payment. The other piece of this is the internal loan piece of it is that the GOLT bond funds will make an internal loan to the Northeast Renaissance TIF project fund so that the money can be provided to the developer as he needs it to make expenditures on the project. This is the second phase of the project at 1700 Northeast 23rd Street. If you recall, the first phase was a new home for the Oklahoma City Clinic and some other office space. This phase is mostly retail and restaurants. So I think that pretty much sums it up. We're glad to try to answer any questions you might have.
Kathy, the money that is the GOLT bonds are loaning to this project, those will be repaid to the GOLT bond fund over time?
Over time, through the ad valorem payments.
We have a motion and a second. Any more comments or questions? Please pass your votes to adopt the resolution. And the resolution is adopted. Next item.
Item C is a economic development agreement with American Tissue Industries for an allocation of $125,000. This project will create 84 new jobs. The trust passed the resolution authorizing negotiations in November of 2017, so you've already had a presentation about this project. And this agreement has all of the typical features of our other agreements. It's pay for performance. The money is paid out to the company as they create the jobs over time.
Thank you, Kathy. Questions from the trustees?
I'd like to move the item.
We have a motion? Do we have a second? A second? Seeing no comments, please cast your votes. And the agreement is approved. Next item.
The next item is a resolution approving an allocation of goal funding in the amount of $100,000 to create 49 jobs. And I think Tim Dickinson is here with the Chamber of Commerce to introduce this project.
Good afternoon. Dura Coatings is a company that provides metal plating and coating services, primarily to oil and gas industry, but increasingly to aerospace. They have two subsidiaries located here in Oklahoma City, the oldest of which was founded over 40 years ago. They are getting ready to expand, and they have chosen to expand here over a couple of candidate locations in Texas, primarily because of state and local incentives. Here from Dura Coatings is the president, Dennis Glasgow, and he'll tell you more about the company and their expansion.
Thank you, Tim. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Dura Coatings is a metal finishing company, as Tim alluded to, that was started by the Smith family back in 1974 over at Northwest 4th Street, and has been a family-owned concern since then for the last 43 years. The company is primarily in oil and gas. We electroplate chrome and nickel, mechanically apply a coating called tungsten carbide, or HVOF. So those are good wear-resistant coatings that really help the oil and gas industry on their drilling tools. And fortunately, it has a unique application that can move over and be part of the aerospace industry also. So we want to capitalize on our knowledge of repair and restoration of drilling tools and move that into the aviation sector that seems to be growing in the Oklahoma City area. The company began in 1974. In 2001, we moved over south of the airport off of South Meridian and built another facility there as the company grew. That facility has about 6 to 7 acres of land there. We want to build another building there to help us grow and to hire some new people. In 2013, we did partner with a company out of Houston called Rock Hill Equity to help us grow and to infuse some cash into the company. And we work with them today and continue to work with them. As the oil and gas industry kind of waned in 15 and 16, they really helped us sustain our company through that downturn, and as the companies come back, they've allowed us to spend some equity dollars and to put some capital back into the company to buy some equipment and update some equipment, so we're ready to go now that the oil and gas is back and as we moved into the aviation area. We did achieve our ISO 9001 AS 9100 certification in September of 2017, which opens the door for us to work in the aviation area. We've also applied with the FAA for a repair station certificate. We're currently working on that, and we expect to have that by the end of May this year of 2018. So we're really excited about what that can do for us as far as diversifying what our company can offer in the industries we can work in. We have a fairly diverse customer base now, but it is primarily oil and gas. 59% of our revenue comes from oil and gas. We're not going to abandon that in any way. We want to grow that even more, but we do want to diversify and add aviation. It just fits so well with what we've learned to do over the last 43 years, and it just makes good sense to us. Some of the other industries you can see that we're working in is mining, printing, hydraulic, and we do some automotive with some local companies here in town. But our facility on the south side, AIC, is exclusively oil and gas, and just the way it's set up.
Our largest customer today is National Oil Well Varco, NOV. I'm sure a lot of companies in OKC work with those guys. 26% of our 2012 revenues came from NOV. Schlumberger is also another of our big customers, someone that we work with. Those are our larger customers that everybody knows, but we deal with many service companies that are in the oil patch that I'm sure you may know, but they're smaller people, but that's who we've dealt with in the past. Getting the ISO 9001 certification is allowing us to work with some of the larger OEMs like Schlumberger. We have some quotes now from Baker Hughes here in town that allow us to open the doors to work instead of just service and repair, but the OEM world also. On slide 5, it shows our market share of the drilling tools coating industry. Market sizes, we estimate we have 15 to 20% of the market. And, you know, our competitions worldwide are in the domestic area, the U.S. and Canada, that we're competing against. But we're centrally located in the U.S. in Oklahoma City, and we have access to I-40 and I-44, so we can ship to Houston or Dallas, Midland, the Permian area, or, you know, Casper, West Virginia, anywhere we need to. So our cost savings and efficiency gains, we don't ship overseas or anything, so we're not really ITAR or foreign country related. It's mostly domestic. As far as the future growth of the company, entering the maintenance, repair, and overhaul industry, our FAA repair station will help us diversify and keep our folks working. Partnership with local vendors initially providing additional economic impact. Field aviation, AAR locally, Tinker Air Force Base. We've got a couple of quotes from them already. NORDAM in Tulsa, as well as Vertical Aerospace in Bristow, are people that we feel like we can pull some work into Oklahoma City and grow our business there. Our 10-year growth model projects $40+ million in annual sales, which is over a 300% increase from today's revenue at Duracoatings. And we expect the growth to come from oil and gas, aerospace, utilities, as well as textiles. One of the things that we're trying to do at Duracoatings is to reach out into the community. So we do participate in the Adopt a Street program on Northwest 4th Street between North MacArthur and North Ann Arbor. We're participating this year in the Oklahoma City Marathon. We have 10 participants out of about 85 employees, so we feel good about that. It's our first year. We hope that that will continue to grow. We're also partnering with the Oklahoma Manufacturing Alliance with some of the middle schools and high schools in Oklahoma City to get them familiar with manufacturing and what we do. And we hope that's an investment in the young folks, but we're also looking to maybe find some employees down the road also. We're also looking to our Votex here in town and Moore Norman to help us with engineering interns as well as machinists and people that we would use on our shop floor. So we want to reach out and be a part of the community also. In our expansion project, our net new 3-year headcount increase at our southern facility, we expect 13 full-time employees and 34 at DCI, which is our northernmost facility, with an average wage of $57,000 per position. We are buying our property, so the real property improvement from $3 to $3.5 million, with personal property of $3.8 million. Our job classifications in manufacturing, they're grinders, shot peen operators, maintenance folks, thermal sprayers, NDT, non-destructive testing folks, prep and polish, real technical specific type positions. Non-manufacturing will hire customer service, more human resource management, IT management, as well as sales and engineering. Our expansion project would be located at 139th and Meridian, South Meridian. The new building that we want to construct, and we do have approval from our board to proceed with that, is a 70,000 square foot building. We'll move some oil and gas in there, but that gives us the additional space to bring in aviation business. So we can keep our focus on oil and gas as well as bring in aviation. We do have ISO 9001, AS 9100 registration, and we are investing in the property building as well as the capital improvements of buying new equipment. The local financial support will aid in the financial feasibility of the project and help offset anticipated project costs of capital, job growth, workforce training, and taxes. I want to thank you for your time and consideration. Do you have any questions? Or yes, ma'am.
What is a shot peen?
A shot peen, when you grind a metal part, you induce certain stresses in that part, and shot peening is using a metal shot like a BB or a pellet that you force against that metal at a certain speed, and it redirects those stresses so you don't get cracks down into the part. It kind of seals it off a little bit. So it makes the part last longer. It increases its fatigue. Sure. Sure.
Any other comment? Jim?
Yeah. A word of thanks. Appreciate the investment, the longstanding relationship, and the wise decision to expand here and not south of the border. So thanks to the Chamber for having worked with you as well.
Absolutely.
A couple questions really maybe for Brent. If you don't mind, walk us through the program a little bit. I don't want to negotiate against ourselves, but based on the estimated economic impact, the offer seems modest. But I wanted to understand how we're checking the box on some of these issues. Just looking at it, I know 49 is less than 50 for the new jobs, but we're talking about a minimum annual salary amount of 1.75.
That's correct.
You indicate we'll get there by year 2?
Yes.
Okay. And our program is comfortable with not achieving that year 1, but over the life?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that.
We realize that some companies, it takes them a while to ramp up, and we allow for that.
Right.
We have in the past.
Appreciate that. Certainly by year 3, you're almost $3 million, so thank you for clarifying that. And then when we get to the number, like the $35 million, can you remind me kind of what all in is? Total project impact, capital investment, wages, state and local taxes. I was doing the math quickly, and $7 million in new facilities and payroll of $3 million. And anyway, what period of time are we allowed to put dollars in to get to that $35 million?
Typically, we would work with them on that. Typically 2-3 years to do that. If they need more time, as long as they're creating jobs and continuing to create jobs, they're going to need to create the jobs. If they do expand, it may slow it down a little bit, but we try to allow for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just what we look at when we examine these projects, and what the Chamber helps us look at, is the estimated local sales and property tax impact. And so many times our incentives are based on getting a return through those tax revenue sources over a 5 to 7 year period. So in this case, over the first 3 years, the return was about $118,000. So that's, when you think about how we base the amount of incentives, that's really what the target is. And the $35 million is all of their capital investment and then all of the multiplier effect of those jobs and those investments in the local economy. Overall, it's a much bigger number.
Right, that makes sense. So it's not just the real.
Yeah.
Okay. And just, I guess, a word of encouragement. It's really exciting to see the trust also partner with an existing company that's looking to diversify across the economy in the same ways that the state is. I'd love to see skilled jobs like this continue to have chance here in spite of commodity issues. So just a word of thanks. It's really nice to see that.
And I'd have to give credit to the Chamber for doing that, especially Tim Dickinson doing that.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you.
There's another observation also I think it needs to be made, and that is the fact that many times we're accused of only dealing with big numbers and big companies. Here we've got a small to medium-sized company that's filling a niche, and most of the manufacturing that goes on in this country comes from companies of this size. So our appreciation to the Chamber and to the company for selecting Oklahoma City to help with our manufacturing base. Any other comments or questions? We have a motion to approve. And a second. Anybody with a comment or question? Seeing none, please cast your votes. And it is so done. Next item, Mr. Connor.
And the next item is a resolution authorizing an allocation of $1,250,000 to create jobs with SACI Incorporated, and Kurt Foreman is here to introduce the project.
Well, good afternoon. Good to be with you. It's nice to be here after all the meetings we've been having, that good news, good news, good news, and to your point, to have an existing company that's diversifying, just like we're trying to diversify, and then now a company that is a household name in many markets, maybe not in Oklahoma City yet, but CACI, I wager, will be an employer of choice within a very short time. We're very pleased to have had a chance to work with both CACI and their consultants at JLL who are with them here today. They brought most of their senior management team here today, so I'm going to let their CEO introduce them and tell you their story, but it's a really great one and will be a great additional chapter for Oklahoma City. But I'm pleased to introduce Ken Asbury, who is CACI International's president and CEO, who has a tie to Oklahoma that I'll let him share.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm very pleased to be here before you today, and I'll tell you a little bit of the story about CACI. We're a company, probably go to the next slide. We're a company that started in 1962. Two people from the RAND Corporation had a really great idea on how to do modeling and simulation in California. And today, from those two folks, we're a company of 18,600 people throughout the United States, predominantly in the Washington, D.C. area, but we serve the federal government all over the world. And at any point in time, I have about 1,000 people that live out or work outside of the United States. Our revenue comes largely from the Department of Defense, although we do work for NASA, the Department of Homeland Security, the intelligence communities, and the like. If I was to characterize us briefly, we are a national security information technology company. Very forward-leaning kind of company, and I'll show you some of the markets here in a moment. We'll do approximately $4.5 billion in total sales this year, and we're on the Russell 2000 index. We are traded on the New York Stock Exchange under the banner CACI. A couple things that you may not know about is that 35% of our workforce is made up of veterans. They are people that have served in the military. They come back, and through the programs that we serve, the federal government, they're sort of continuing their service to America and to our national security. 10% of our population of veterans are disabled veterans, people that have served and have been injured in some capacity, something we're incredibly proud of. So, I'll also tell you that we're a business that has gained national reputation for in the Fortune, as a Fortune 1000 company, as well as a Fortune magazine best company to work for. And we are fifth in the world in terms of that ranking for information technology companies. It speaks to the way our employees feel about working at CACI. So, enough of the commercial. The markets we serve are here. It's everything from redoing business systems for the government to building advanced offensive cybersecurity systems that are looking to exploit, weaknesses in our enemy to make sure that they're not able to use their capabilities against us. We do quite a bit of intelligence activity. Approximately 70% of the people that support our customers have security clearances at the very highest level. And I can answer many more questions about this. This is one of my favorite pages, but let me talk to you about the project that we're doing. We find ourselves in an interesting place in this country right now. We have an unemployment rate nationally of around 4%. In some places it's actually lower than that. And what we are attempting to do here is take a segment of our business, which is not government contract. It is the core back office capabilities of our business, and transfer it from the Washington, D.C. area where the costs are up here and the competition for talent is also up here, and move it to a lower cost location with a huge quality of life, and so we can get a bit more stability in in that part of our work. And the savings that we will generate from that, we're going to put back into some R&D, research and development for future capabilities, but the majority of it will go back into benefits programs. We want to raise the 401k for our entire population of people. That takes money to do. When you're in the government business, you really worry about what your rate structure is, how much you charge for a particular labor rate. This way, we get to take a core function, move it to a lower cost but highly attractive location such as Oklahoma City, and then plow that savings back into the business to make ourselves, to grow us to 19, 20, 21,000 people. So that's the whole point of what we're doing here. And the kind of work that we're in the process, or we've already leased, or working with the local realtor to move into 65,000 square feet in the Oklahoma City Works building. I had the opportunity to go see it today. The vision that those folks have for that facility, considering it was the old Western Electric AT&T plant, what they're doing in there now is simply magic, and it looks like you should have Google or those kind of companies. It's got that kind of feel to it, very, very productive, very open, and I think people will want to come and work in an environment like that. A thing I should point out to you, and I'll get to it on another page, is we currently have approximately 300 employees in the state of Oklahoma today. They're not part of the economic incentive that we're talking to you about. We're talking about adding to that population. And the difference is the majority of the people that we have today are serving on government contracts. So those come and go depending on whether we're successful in recompeting them or moving to, or somebody else comes in and has a different kind of bid. And that's sort of the history of that business. The work that we are moving here is very steady state. It is, and we need to do it. We have already informed our people in Washington, D.C. that we are making this move. So 300 people that currently work for me today, jobs end at the end of July. So I need the help of a lot of people here in the state of Oklahoma to make sure that I am populating this center sometime around the 1st of July so we can get that. And we will run in parallel operations. That's one of the pieces of our investment for probably 3 to 4 months. We have a lot of SEC requirements because we're going to be doing a lot of back office finance and accounting, accounts payable, accounts receivable, as well as our central information system, computer information system help desks, and a lot of our development work over our applications. Our investment, this is not just something we've come to you and asked, we're investing in the neighborhood of $8 to $11 million in making this transfer. A lot of that comes into the stability of, investing in the stability of my workers back in D.C. But we will be upgrading our computer systems and the amount of money that we're spending to build out the Oklahoma City Works spaces to house the folks that are here. So our goal over the period of this agreement is, I think within 3 years we'll have about 330 folks. Maybe it's slightly less than that, 301? First 3 years?
Oh, sorry, the first 3 years we're going to get up to 550.
550, pardon me.
The first year, starting July 1st.
That's what I missed. 300 by July 1st and 550 over the first 3 years. And the estimated payroll that we have, and that's not including taxes and all, Ms. O'Connor, that you were talking about earlier as part of these, but the payroll that we see on average is about $33,600,000 a year. Here's a breakdown of kind of the employment plans. We're going to be moving, or going to be hiring 151 computer science-related people. They could be everything from a technician that helps you when you have a problem with your desktop to far more sophisticated applications that have to do with, our human resources system or anything to do with our financial system. We'll be hiring a lot of accountants and people that are doing transaction processing related to accounting. Human resources will have the bulk of our national recruiting team here in Oklahoma City, and they will be sourcing people for a variety throughout the country. Procurement and contracts will be centered here, so a lot of our purchasing, how we do all of our purchasing is done off of the computer these days. Nobody goes into a store and does it anymore. So it doesn't matter where it's located as long as it's a very qualified workforce that that's stable for us. And then finally, we're moving a great number of the people that process our security clearances, the folks that are dealing with various agencies of government about a person's qualifications, to be allowed to deal with top secret or lesser information. So over the course of 3 years, we will hire 550 folks, and that's that story. The benefits are all laid out for you down below. They're very standard. I hope to add to them with the savings that generates from this move that we're making here to Oklahoma City. Let's see what else I can tell you. So while we're new here and kind of spread out, we don't have a brand presence when it comes to community support, but we are well known throughout the nation and other places where we have a deeper commitment. We have an organization or a commitment called Khaki Cares, and it is, we support anything that's going on in that particular community that makes a difference to that community, and to tell people that we care about the communities that we live in. On a national basis, we do wreaths across America. My deputy, John Mengucci, actually, just as an aside story, was doing it last year during a snowstorm. He was laying wreaths on Arlington. He went back to get another group of wreaths and fell and broke his wrist on the ice. So there is a lot of commitment in terms of our senior leadership in terms of things that we do. Other things that we've been very consistent with is National Merit Scholars, finding the the children or the offspring of our employees, those that are really done well academically, and providing some form of support from the company. And Toys for Tots and other things, many things related to veterans and the activities that help them come back. And with that, I will take any questions that you all have, and I will thank you for listening to what CACI is all about, what we hope to do in Oklahoma City.
Thank you, Ken, and welcome to Oklahoma City.
Thank you, sir.
Questions? Yes, sir.
All right, Ken, thank you. These are impressive statistics and metrics. 35% veterans, amazing. And the fact that you chose Oklahoma City to grow, we greatly appreciate it. But you didn't tell us your story.
Well, so there's a little bit more. I am not unfamiliar with the grand city of Oklahoma City. My father was in the military, and he was transferred here in approximately 1967, 68, and I went from 8th grade through high school. I went to John Marshall on the northwest side.
I'm a bear.
Wow.
Did I know you?
I saw we won the 3A state championship in football, so cool. And then I went into the military and served from 1973 to 76, came back and went to school at Oklahoma on the GI Bill. Wanted to become a doctor, wanted to be a rock star. You know, all those things you do when you were young. And then eventually I migrated away, and the last time I've been in Oklahoma City was in 1993 for my 20th reunion for John Marshall High School. So that is my story. If I may indulge, I'd also like to talk about our chairman of the board. Dr. Jack London was born in Oklahoma City, a little bit earlier than I was. He went to Northwest Classen High School and then was selected to the Naval Academy, went there, became a naval aviator, was on the mission that picked up John Glenn when John Glenn circled the world and landed in the ocean. And he's been with our company and is our chairman of the board today. So there are deep roots among the CACI leadership to this community. And as we looked at 50 communities to figure out how we would want to do this, there were a variety of different choices. And you all had positioned yourself, and that means you individually, the city itself distinguished itself on many, not just incentives, that's a minor part of it. It is the quality of life, it is the transformation that you have created in the city. It's a different place than I remember. Going downtown when I was 13, it was not what you did. Or at least we weren't supposed to. We'd get away with it every once in a while. But anyway, Rhonda, that's the rest of the story.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for that update.
You're very welcome.
Any other comments or questions? Just a minute.
Well, I would add to the chorus of gratitude to those existing Oklahoman employees, but also the expansion plan. And we could maybe get to 10% of your company's population or 15% over time.
Well, we got some ideas.
Right,
There's other things that...
those families could birth the next chairman someday, right?
Precisely correct.
Yeah, but thank you for the investment. Particularly excited to have a company that provides that level of support to something that's a part of all of us with our military installations here.
Thank you, Mr.
In case any site people are interested, there's plenty more room at that location for more.
There is. I mean, I was...
You might think
I was so impressed. I'm thinking of moving our
headquarters
headquarters completely down here. Most of my staff, who I didn't introduce, but let me do that real quick if you don't mind, or else I'm going to be completely rude. But I brought with me today our head of our Executive Vice President of Communications, Jody Brown, Marjorie Bailey, who is in charge, she's our Chief Human Resources Officer, Kevin Graves, who is our Senior Vice President of Facilities and Installation. He's the genius that's putting and working with the folks over at OK Works. Jackie Hughes is our VP, and she is the program manager for this project and has worked it all the way along to this point. And she's going to be the operating manager over it. And then, of course, Jubal Smith and Julie Miller from JLL have been our consultants and been just geniuses at understanding the local market and really helping us find this incredible spot that they presented to me today. The other folks have known about it for quite some time, but I'm kind of excited about it. I mean, an indoor basketball court, I mean, that's pretty cool.
We need our next under recruits.
Exactly. So if there's any other questions,
Okay.
Second.
Before we do,
I've got paperwork to speak, man. How you gonna prove somebody ain't spoke yet?
will you wait just a minute, sir, and not interrupt? I was just getting ready to call on you.
Something I haven't spoken on yet. That's what I'm trying to speak. So in other words, my speech was
Just calm down. We do have one citizen who wishes to be heard, Mr. Michael Washington. If you would, please, sir, tell your name and address, and then ask your comments.
Yeah, Michael Washington, 2900 Northeast 18th Street, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Thank you very much. So no disrespect intended to you. You probably didn't notice in advance, but I'd like to have my time to speak before something being approved. In other words, I'm just wasting my time, right? Thank you, though. Now, according to this gentleman here, this CACI Incorporated federal initiation that they want to bring here to Oklahoma City, now it's supposed to create 550 new jobs. In exchange, they're asking for $250 million to get this project underway for moving down here. Now, what I don't understand is, of course, this is my first time in association with it, so you can imagine my kind of stumbling with it. But for how many jobs is going to create 550, right? Now, in addition to this now, you haven't told me, as far as I haven't understood anything, how many people of color is going to have position in your company. And you didn't tell me how much over a 5-year period that amount of money is going to be spent to give these people, these 550 people, these jobs. Now, will they be relocated down here? Will additional monies be required of Oklahoma City to help get you to move these people down here? Okay, now, let's move on down a little further here. Now, you said according to this information that I'm reading from the Economic Development Trust program here, you have 18,600 employees worldwide, including a large workforce in military veterans and industrial professionals who support the nation's most critical missions. Okay, now that's nice to hear. But again, I'm kind of wondering and fidgeting on why Oklahoma City. Now, in other words, with all these great people, like you say, Cleveland already, in various other instances and institutions, why Oklahoma City? Now, for the purpose of $1.250 million, $1,250 million, put it like that to help my intelligence here. What, in fact, is that going to create the 550 jobs? I don't think so. So I'd like to know, where is that money, $1,250,000 going for? Now, it's supposed to, again, you're supposed to create 550 jobs over the next 5 years. So now they couldn't be going to that, I don't believe. So in other words, so this here is to do what? Paying them to come and create jobs that have not been created yet? How do we know that they're going to meet this quota of 550 jobs being created? Okay, this is what I want to know. Every time somebody comes in Oklahoma, want to establish a new program, a new institution, a new business in Oklahoma, it's basically given, but little I know, this concern about the citizens or taxpayers' dollars. Now, we need to look at this here for the most part of so-called security, which I can't say so-called because I don't know, missions that are secretive and engaging the citizens of Oklahoma. Okay, you're going to bring us some security or insurance to us. Okay, and how do we know that? You know, this is what I'm trying to say. No one come to me and told me other than clandestinely these behavior and these practices are going on. And we're not going to tolerate that. We deserve rights as a citizens to know why taxpayer dollars are going and why they're going in the way they're going. No one has come to me and told me about any little thing. And first of all, I'm a community activist and a community activist, a leader in my community, and I need to know what's affecting me in my northeast side of Oklahoma City. In closing. Okay, let me read a little bit here. Now watch this here. The company plans to add approximately 550 new jobs over the next 5 years. Watch this now. Those jobs reflect the location of the company's operations facility in Oklahoma City to serve clients throughout their network. Okay, so now wait a minute. The clients throughout, see, Michael reads, I don't know about everybody else. Now, so you're saying that your clients are going to be served throughout your network, so that means what you're doing here is going to be shifted from here to taken back out through, since you have a client area of 18,600 people then. Okay, now, watch this here now. I don't believe this. The average first-year wage for these new jobs is estimated to be at $56,999. How do we come up with that $999 on the end? See, it sounds a little fishy to me. Michael likes to, he reads real carefully when he reads. That's one thing about no one can blame me saying I don't do is don't read. All right, now watch this. Uh-oh, here's the good part. After evaluating options for the location of this business unit in another location throughout the United States, CACI Incorporated Federal has chosen to locate the facility in Oklahoma City. And watch this here now. The availability of the appropriate and affordable real estate, cost of doing business, access to qualified personnel with appropriate skills, and Oklahoma City's receptiveness to the project all contributed to this site's selection as CACI Incorporated Federal's newest operations center. Now, come on, man, something just ain't jiving right with Michael Washington now. Here you are. First of all, who found you? Number two, how did you pick here? Number three, what are going to be the incentives for the African-American community here? How many African-American people are going to have jobs of substantial recognition in this company? Okay, you don't just say, so here you go, and then leave it at that.
Thank you for your comments. I would refer you to Brent Bryant after the meeting, who will answer your questions. And let's move on. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second, I believe. Yes. Do we not? Any further comments or questions from the trustees? Seeing none, please cast your votes. And it is approved to negotiate. Thank you, sir. Next up, General Manager's report.
Yeah, just a few things in the General Manager's report. On Tax Increment District 2, we refunded the debt for TIF 2 on January 30th. So the debt amount is still showing on the financial statements, but the revenues from the refunding haven't posted yet. We have a couple timing issues like that on this financial statement. And again, a similar situation, not well similar, but a timing situation with TIF 8. The ending balance appears overstated due to a payment from the county for the Devon ad valorem taxes that were received in January, but the debt service payment was made in February. So again, just a little bit of a timing difference because this report ends on January 31st. And finally, on outlet mall performance, from August to January 2018, they had sales totaling $75.6 million, which is about 3.25% above the established target, and 4.3% above the last year. So outlet mall seems to be performing well. And that is all I have.
Any questions for the General Manager? Seeing none, thank you, Kathy. That concludes our agenda. Now we have time for any trustees wishing to be heard.
Mr. Chair, I'll just quickly mention that I saw some advertisement at the airport for the outlet malls recently. Saw people talking about it even, so it was effective advertisement. Appreciate them continuing to build business. Also, I thought I had read recently that Kurt was accepting a job out of state. And I'm sorry that he stepped out and wanted to give him a word of thanks. if you're otherwise aware of that, or maybe the chairman or Kathy, if you'd like to, I think he's
Mr. Foreman, our general manager would like to address a few comments to you, sir.
Sure, absolutely.
Well, today is Kurt Foreman's last Economic Development Trust meeting with the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber, and we want to express our thanks and appreciation to Kurt for all of his hard work and support, working with us on the Strategic Investment Program and all the other things that we work together on, and wish him the best of luck in Delaware.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'll be cheering you all on from afar and wearing my Thunder gear whenever I can. And my mom, who's 82 and lives in Pennsylvania, is probably the most rabid Thunder fan in Pennsylvania, so I'll be helping to cheer on with her too. But Oklahoma City has so much to offer and so much going for it, and you all are a key part of that. So thank you. It's been a real pleasure and an honor to serve with you, and I'm going to, again, be cheering from afar. You have lots of great things ahead, so thank you.
Thank you for mentioning that, Kathy, and thank you, Kurt, and best of luck and Godspeed to you, sir. We appreciate your friendship and your support. Next up, our citizens to be heard. We have one citizen who's signed up to speak, Mr. Washington. If you would, share with your name and address. So
yes, sir.
We have it on the record.
Excuse me. Michael Washington, 2900 Northeast 18th Street, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73111. The one and only. Now, again, let me tell you something. First of all, by me standing up here, I don't have, per se, any negative outright disregard for the people who came here with this CI federal business. But what I do have a problem with is that it seems that the northeast side of Oklahoma City seems to be more neglected than any other side here, in any of the districts here in northeast Oklahoma City, as well as Oklahoma City alone. Now, it seems like every business and every money, financial, extremely high amount of dollars seems to be going put into this area downtown Oklahoma City, Bricktown and other areas, and boat houses and different things of this nature. Okay, now we understand the whole idea is to draw people down here and to take people's money. We understand that. But at the same time, we have to be greedy about it? I don't think so. Now, for the most part, I hear this gentleman here to our councilman here, Mr. John Pettis. I won't disrespect him in any kind of way, any bad words per se, because we're going to go above that today. However, I'm fairly disappointed that this man here has failed to ensure that African-American business owners on the northeast side have been given some of the tax increment finance monies of $60 million that's been allocated to us on the northeast side. Are you ready for this one, though? Now, from all that money that's been given to those outside investors who came into the community with their businesses, okay, now everybody with common sense, even my little grandchild who's 8 years old knows that when you bring a business that a person lives outside the community, he's not helping to improve the community because he's taking more of that money into the community out. Why? Because now I'm going to you, investing in you, in your business of popcorn or potato chips or whatever you sell, and now you're going to take that money back to where you belong and where you live. And what does that do to my community then? Unless, of course, it's gentrification coming along here. So what that's going to do, let me give you two scenarios here very briefly. Number one, either you intend to take my money from me, the little bit I'm already getting, back to your side of town, or you have plans by putting your business over here to draw your folks over here and remove me and my houses and my land and my places and my properties. And when I say mine, I'm talking about African American and people of color who live in those districts now in the northeast side of Oklahoma City. Now, are you ready for this one as well? We got a new district that we want to name for the northeast side. Oh, let's come together, y'all, and name this new district, this new medical facility we're putting on 23rd and Martin Luther King in that area, Missouri Street. Let's think about the new restaurants we're putting up over there. What district name are we going to give it? Now, why should a name be given to that portion of Northeast City where I live at and have never been before? Why? Because there is some underhanded, undermined behavior and activities that are going on that we, the people, do not know about, and that Michael Washington feels obligated 100% to let people know on the northeast side what's going on. And I refuse to accept any coerciveness. I refuse any collaborations. I refuse to accept any kind of underhanded, belittling attempt to disregard and so-called in this blighted area. Now watch this here, y'all. I'm ready to close. Watch this. Blighted areas. Now, wasn't that for tax increment finances was about created in 2015? Wasn't that created for that reason? That being the case then, sir, why is it then that it has to be finally, out of the years that I've been here on the northeast side, and we've been just in a dilapidated state from every corner that you want to turn in. Why all of a sudden now you got the 6th Street hotel that's been built. That's one of the prestigious schools known to the African-American community. Then you got on 36th Street up here at Northeast 36 in Kelly, you got this Northeast part of so-called Northeast Renaissance. Again, money's going to these various people, these high echelon people who do not live on the northeast side of Oklahoma City. That is not fair to the people. And it starts right here with this tax, this Economic Development Trust, okay? As well, before anything go to the city council, everybody knows that you people have to approve it first and then send it on to them. So I'm telling you that just like this man here, again, who's responsible for filtering out these monies that's available, as we said, to these institutions, why in the world has no African-American, and y'all should have the actual responsibility to look into it when the discriminatory practices are being made. Let me say in closing that I will intend, with all practical purposes and intent, become more familiarized and more obligated and more active in the process of this illustrious, I would say, gathering of esteemed people on this board. Thank you very much, and I will be back. Thank you.
Do we have anybody else? We are adjourned. Thank you all for your participation.